Welcome to the Q.A.C. Team podcast series with your host, Charles Luttrell. Our series features leaders and business owners in your community discussing the customer experience, employee satisfaction, and performance improvement. Our series will help share strategic ideas for coaching and mentoring through mystery shopping in a post-pandemic economy. And now here's your host, Charles Luttrell.
Good morning, listeners, on this looks like a gloomy Monday morning. I have Libby with me. Libby, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
It's Monday.
It is Monday.
We're getting through.
Yes.
Tell us how your Monday morning's going.
Well, we've got a name for it. It's the Mundane Monday. So
Monday.
It's a mundane. Yes. No, it's been a day. We're resetting. We just finished Frosty Fest here in downtown Charlestown, Harpers Ferry, and Shepherdstown, West Virginia. That was this past week, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we're kind of doing a reset. You only have 2 weeks before Valentine's Day. So it's kind of like you got to hurry up and let people appreciate the decorations. And, we try to participate in all the different events. So this morning has been a morning. So No live for us because we've just been a little crazy, but we'll resume our lives tomorrow. But it's going to be okay. We're going to make
there you go.
It's going to be a good day.
Exactly. So Let's go into our first question here so people can get an idea of, let's tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Libby and Libby Powell. I am the owner and brains behind Sibling Coffee Roasters in downtown Charlestown, West Virginia. We are a small micro roastery. We started out as just that. We just started out roasting coffee and attending a farmer's market in Clark County, Virginia, which is only about, I'd say, 8-minute drive from Charlestown. We started doing that on the weekends. I'm a full-time registered nurse, have been for 27 years, but I've always wanted to start a business. So we went brick and mortar it was beautiful. It was beautiful timing. 2019. So just imagine all the things that were happening at the end of 2019 when people were scratching their heads going,
wait a minute.
What is this weird flu?
Right. Hold up.
Yeah.
There's nothing happened in 2019.
Yeah, no. And, being a nurse, I was seeing some stuff and I had some concerns, but, who cares? I'd already, signed on the dotted line to rent this building and to go brick and mortar. Our grand opening, February of 2020. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. So here we are. We have changed locations once since then. We outgrew our space where we started in less than a year. And we had the opportunity to move into what has been a beautiful coffee shop since I was a little girl. So
wow.
This location at 109 was Jumpin' Java back in the day. My baby girl's baby shower was here when I was pregnant with her 24 years ago. Wow. And it's changed hands. It was Mad Monk's Coffee Shop after that. And now it's Sibling Coffee Roasters. So it's really great to still be able to carry on the tradition of a local coffee shop here in the downtown area. And we've grown from just being a small coffee roaster to having a little tiny bakery and just being a local hangout for our community.
That is great. And, I wanted to jump on that to say, what's the tie between Jumpin' Java and Siblings? Because my next question would be, why did you decide to be a business owner and why did you choose the industry? There's the next two questions.
Oh.
And and I'm just curious to know, so how did you tie it together for our listeners?
Okay. So, as a registered nurse working night shift, we drink a lot of coffee.
No.
Yes. And we drink it all different ways. And, over the years, I've had my share of terrible coffee. And I have been an entrepreneur by spirit my entire life. I remember as a child always wanting to make things. My mom is a seamstress. And so I would, be watching her and I would have these ideas. Mom, I want to make stuff. I want to sell it. As a young adult, I found myself taking pictures. I did some photography. My grandmother was also a seamstress, but she was a caterer and cake decorator. So I also would make hand decorated cakes for special occasions, for birthdays. And I did that into my young adulthood. As a nurse, after about 20 years, I can't even lie. I was burnt out, completely burnt out. Okay.
Yeah.
So, after you've done the same profession as a nurse, as an ER nurse, it got really, really to the point where it was just sucking my soul out of me. So I was always looking for something to do different, just to change things in my brain. And I always knew one day I wasn't going to be able to work those 12-hour shifts. Aging, the older we get, it's hard to be on your feet for 12 hours. And if you're experienced, your 12-hour shifts are normally a 14 to 16-hour shift because you're in charge, or you end up getting those senior positions in the nursing field that just really suck the life out of you. So the coffee was something. Listen, I had a little problem in my brain with some of the big, huge coffee manufacturers that decided to get into things like politics. There's a couple of them that are really huge that have made some comments that I just felt were distasteful. My daddy is a preacher, and I was raised to just love everyone, to be kind to everyone. And so I just looked at my husband one day and I said, I think instead of us supporting this coffee company, and because I couldn't go without the coffee, I'm going to try my hand in it. And he was like, whatever. And I was like, okay, well, we've got this popcorn popper that our children never used. I'm going to order some green coffee beans and see what happens. I watched a YouTube video. I can do it too. And that's where it all started. It started in my garage on a Saturday afternoon, started roasting our own coffee and started letting people taste it. And they were like, that's really good. So, every time tax returns come in, I don't know about you, but I'm the girl that pays the government way too much money all year long. And
Yeah.
I usually get a pretty nice check at tax time. So I looked at my husband and I said, this is what we're getting back. Can I buy a coffee roaster, a little small one? I'm tired of the popcorn popper. He's like, yeah, go for it. So I did that for a while. And the next tax season rolled around and I said, hey, babe, the tax return is coming in, and can I buy a bigger coffee roaster? And he just kind of looked at me and he saw where it was going. I was like,
Right.
can you build me a she shed? And so we started attending a farmer's market shortly after that because he was like, show me what you're going to do with this. And I just really, as a nurse, I don't know if you have any friends in your life that are nurses. We find ourselves spending spare time doing things like, my friends would go to wineries and they would taste lots of wine. And that was kind of like their stress relief. Well, I don't drink a lot, so I love to taste things. Coffee's the same way. And as I was roasting different types of coffee, I discovered this. I can have this stress relief by sitting down and having a conversation about the different tastes of different coffees all over the world. And it draws together not only a community, but international sense. You start to understand things of different countries and why they do what they do, the types of weather that they have, why you have these wonderful, beautiful flavors in coffee. And I just fell in love with it. And it just totally took off from there. So that's how coffee made it for me. I live by my senses. So the fact that I could really sit down and taste the difference between Ethiopia, Kenya, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Brazil, Colombia, and learn a true appreciation for their coffee practices. And I discovered that the coffee that we had around us, and to this day, most of it's terrible.
Yeah. Have you had Vietnamese coffee yet?
Have I what? I'm sorry?
Have you had Vietnamese coffee?
Actually, the Vietnamese coffee I have right now is a Robusta, which means it's a very highly caffeinated green. And we do use that in one of our special private label blends.
Yeah, I heard that will straighten you right up.
Yeah, it actually can be a little dangerous,
Yes.
but it's really good in moderation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Great story. So I'm trying to think. So
Yeah.
even in your younger days,
Yeah.
this was just something that you felt you were destined to do.
An entrepreneurial spirit is what I would say. I didn't know what it was going to be. I knew I would want to be a business owner. And I've always like had a harebrained scheme where I'd sit down and get a notebook out and be like, a spice company or not spice. What was the other one? A candy company. Like what I would write things down and I'd show my mom and dad and they would give me advice and say, well, consider always consider what's around you. Where do we live? who would your audience be?
Mhm.
And the one thing that I do see in any community all over the country is everybody needs caffeine. It's the number one legal selling drug in America.
Almost everybody.
Yeah. So why would it?
Unfortunately, I can't have caffeine. I'm
Oh,
hypoglycemic. Yeah,
God
so
love you.
I
Well, you
know.
know what? We
I've
have
been through
some.
25 years of my life with no caffeine except chocolate.
Oh, well, and we even, I'm getting into cocoa. We even brew cocoa, which, has a theobromine, which is the other chemical that is it's a stimulant.
Stimulant, right?
So it's really fun. We do a choffee, which is half coffee and half cocoa. So that's been really fun. I'm actually looking at roasting some cocoa beans to make our own drinking cocoa, and not hot chocolate. I'm talking like cocoa that you actually brew like tea.
Right.
So there's no sugar in it. It's actually tastes like a keto or a diabetic hot chocolate, if you will, but it's
Uh-huh.
kind of like bougie. And so that's kind of been really neat to see, the different things that are happening in the coffee industry,
Yeah.
and see that it's kind of opening up to other different things that can be brewed similarly. And it's
Uh-huh.
just fun.
And that's
It's
great.
really fun.
Hey listeners, Q.A.C. team here. We interrupt this podcast to offer business owners an opportunity to take advantage of our free business analysis. We will visit your location to assess food quality, timing, customer service, and cleanliness. From the web, visit QACteam.com and click on Free Analysis and Consultation at the top of the page. While you are there, to sponsor a podcast or be featured, click on Feature Me. For mobile users, select from the menu options. We look forward to helping your business grow.
So tell me about, and our listeners about Jumpin' Java. Did that change two siblings or are they two
So
separate things?
So Jumpin' Java was there might have been another coffee shop before that I don't remember. But Jumpin' Java was the first thing that I can remember being in this location as a child. As a child, downtown Charlestown, Main Street was it was amazing. We had a J.C. Penney's. We had a Dollar General, a Newberry's. I don't know how old you are, but when I was a child, there was the Cabbage Patch phase. It was a super big, huge craze, the Cabbage Patch Kids. And the
Mm-hmm.
first Cabbage Patch Kid that my parents ever got me came off of Main Street in Charlestown. It was bought at our 5 and dime Newberry's.
Wow.
And so we had everything we needed. We had shoe stores, clothing stores, children's clothing stores. We had a Western Auto. And we had all of these things at every Main Street that kept it alive. And I will never forget the Jumpin' Java. And they had live music. You could have coffee, you could have ice cream, you could have a sandwich. I was so excited to have my daughter's baby shower here. I worked at Jefferson Memorial Hospital, and one of the nurses' sisters was one of the managers. And she set it up that we had my baby shower here. And it was so nostalgic to step back in here. 20 years later and say, this is going to be our business location. In the interim between Jumpin' Java and siblings, there was Mad Monk's coffee shop. And when you hear that Mad Monks, it's kind of comical because you're like, why did the monks go mad? But they didn't go mad, and they weren't mad. They're really they're beautiful people. It's beautiful priory that's located here in Charlestown. Real monks, and they came and sought me out in at the end, the middle of 2020. I noticed they would walk down to the coffee shop, and they would walk in and be like, just watching me, and it kind of made me nervous because I was like, that's my competition. That's Mad Monk's coffee shop. They're coming to my coffee shop 2 blocks away. Are they upset with me? Did I offend them? And all along, I had no idea. They were watching me because they were looking to ask me if I would be willing to move my coffee business into this location.
Wow.
They were struggling, not they weren't making the money that they had thought they would to support their ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And because of COVID, they had tried bringing another like small bakery in here, and it didn't do well when COVID hit. It tanked, and they wanted a community coffee shop to stay alive. And that's what their desire was for this location. They had already built this out as a coffee shop. So they really couldn't see going out of business and watching this become something else. So they asked me after several visits, hey, would you be interested in coming down and taking a peek? and being our partner. And I
Wow.
was like, I would not be interested in being Mad Monk's coffee shop. I would be Sibling Coffee Roasters, but I'll come talk to you.
Hmm.
So to this day, the monks that came and found me to move me to 109 West Washington Street, they still come. Father John comes and bakes bread on Fridays. So he uses our kitchen. We have a partnership. It's beautiful. Um, we're different faiths. I'm a Baptist preacher's daughter and they're Catholic monks, but we have such a beautiful relationship because we're people, we're
That,
humans, and we love everyone. And our desire is that the community finds a refuge here in this coffee shop, a place to come and have important conversations, hard conversations, dear conversations, something that, bring your children here, let them grow up here. And we both had this exact same mentality and desire. And that's what's made this transition from where we first started at 304 West Washington. That's what's made this so beautiful,
hmm
is that we've created this community that's been here for 20 years. And the Jumpin' Java people will come and hang out here once a week and have coffee.
Wow.
And the monks will come here and hang out and have coffee. And it's gorgeous.
That is great. That's such a great story. It really is.
I think so too.
Yeah. And, you covered in detail, about why you decided to be a business owner and why did you choose the industry. And now we can segue into such a great story, right?
Yeah.
To what are some of the challenges that you faced as Siblings Coffee?
Well, I would say one of the biggest challenges for me was the fact that I was still working 36-hour work week. And I didn't have employees at 304 West Washington. It was me and my dad, and I taught my dad how to roast. My dad has been transitioning from being a full-time pastor to being a part-time pastor, and that has been such a blessing because I had to increase the amount of time I spent. When we moved, I had to hire people. I had to train these people. I didn't have the time to roast all the coffee. And let me tell you what, he is an amazing coffee roaster, and I am so grateful. And I know he loves it. So that was a barrier for me. So I actually, it's been a little over a year. I completely took a hiatus from nursing. I have not worked an entire calendar year on the clock as a registered nurse, and that was hard for me, but it was necessary for me to be able to focus on the business and learn how to do payroll and to do the training and how do you order all the things you need. The other challenge that we've seen, once I fixed that and I spent the time here, we've seen a lot of supply and demand. COVID was it was hard enough because we had to, follow certain rules. You couldn't have more than a certain amount of people in your building. You had to make sure that you were, wiping everything down a million times a day. And I know that my employees, we were so blessed to have employees that actually wanted to work. That it was finding to go containers. I would reach out to other coffee shops in the area and say, hey, I'm out of filters and I can't find any to order. And they one another through that. And so now I find myself when I'm shopping, I kind of hoard. Like if I find 20-ounce cups, instead of buying one pack, I'll buy two because I don't
You
know
just
what's going
never
to
know,
happen.
right?
You
Right.
never know. So I
Yeah.
feel like people haven't gotten back to work like they should. And that's
Right.
discouraging to me because I have people walking in here every day asking me for a job,
Yeah.
and I have to turn them down. And I'm like, but I know like our KFC here in Charlestown can't stay open because nobody works there.
Yeah.
And it's very discouraging. So I know that's why our supply chain is the way it is. So
hmm
that's been another huge barrier, is trying to get the supplies that we need to run a shop. And the cost of coffee is now starting to go up. And that's just been happening over the past 6 to 8 months. So, trying to make sure that customers understand, we started out selling coffee at a farmer's market for $12 a bag, and now it's $17 a bag. And some
Yeah.
of the coffee, some has to be $20 and $25 a bag. But
hmm
we're transparent. And I think the customers appreciate that. And it's something that's happening all over the country. So
Yeah.
it's not
You're not
just
alone,
sibling
right?
coffee. Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
when I buy my coffee, I go online and I look at coffee shops that I want to try, and I notice $28 bags of coffee, and I order them, and they're delightful. And I know why they cost that much.
Right.
So maintaining transparency, I think, has really helped a lot of our barriers. Our
Mhm.
customers understand, and our employees are happy. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. There's like this common thread right now, and we've posted articles about it, on our website about this bigger issue of, employee retention and employee engagement and quiet quitting. It's a big problem where people just don't want to have loyalty to companies,
Yeah. Well, and that's
and
because companies have not had loyalty to them.
yes,
And
and I'm sorry, these Gen Zers are the ones
yeah,
who are bringing that out now. They're not putting up with it. They're saying, you know what,
yeah,
I'm young enough, I can move around,
yep.
you know, because in our generation, Gen X, I'm Gen X,
Hmm.
it was all about you work for a company for 30 years, you collect a pension, and you retire. In the
Yeah.
middle of my generation, that went from that to the 401k, and it
Yes.
just it
Yes.
just it just totally took everything upside down,
Yeah. I
And these,
mentioned pension now, and people are like, "What's a pension?"
what's
And
a
I'm like,
pension, right?
"Oh, yeah, I have one of those." And I feel you there. And we dedicated our lives to these organizations that gave us absolutely no. They didn't care.
They didn't care. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So I think that's why I don't have a problem keeping employees. And I'm not trying to toot my own, but I will tell you, you can ask any of my employees if they love their job.
Hmm.
And I know what the answer is because I ask them that all the time. I ask them, "Are you happy? Is there anything I can do for you?
Right.
Do you love your job?" And I encourage them because they're young adults. Listen, please don't feel like you have to be here all the time. If you want to look for another job, tell me what your interests are. I want you to be happy where you are. And I think that's the ticket is mutual respect.
That is so correct. And that's part of what, my company pushes is to coaching and training and mentoring. You have to really be in your employees' lives because it's their home away from home, you
Yes.
know? And
Yep.
if you have that two-way communication, things work great. Either they're with you or they're not. And I used
Right.
to coach that way. It's look, if you're not happy here, let's find something else for you. I would help
Yes.
them. That's what makes it work so great, you know? So the last question, and it's kind of you touched on a little bit, but how the pandemic's changed your business model. So we know, the struggles of, you know, number of people and keeping clean and mask and all, but beyond all of that, now that we're past the pandemic, how's it changed your business model? What do you see that you're doing different that you did before?
Well, I the lives that I do live every morning most of the time. So
And I
when I
love
get in
them,
the
by the way. I'm
morning,
glad I ran into you.
yeah. So every morning, during the pandemic, I had to get creative. How do I show people what we have in the bakery case? Because not everybody can come in the door at the same time. So when I started my lives, that was the reason. It was because we were in a pandemic. I wanted to reach out to people. I wanted to give them a little bit of hope, and I wanted them to see my personality. I wanted them to hear how I feel about them. I wanted them to know how I appreciated them, and I feel like part of me thought that would just be something we did in the pandemic. And it's really become something that people appreciate and respect and expect. And I have people that worry about me if they don't see me go live. Like today, I posted pictures because I was so busy scraping off the paint from the windows. And I'm like, okay, we're going to post pictures of the bakery case. But I've already gotten 2 messages from people. "Hey, are you okay today?" And these are customers
Hmm.
and the relationships that I've developed through this. So I mean, the way that I communicate with people has completely changed, and I don't see myself changing. The fact that I want to communicate with my customers personally on as much of a daily basis as I can. We have lost a lot of our downtown Main Street business. I was touching on this earlier about how we used to have a J.C. Penney's. We had flagship stores that brought customers downtown, that kept them walking up and down the streets until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Now I can tell you, I am one of the only businesses in downtown Charlestown that is open today. that's a
Wow.
retail business. Everybody chooses to close on Mondays.
Yeah.
And do you know that that's when people travel and have their long weekends? They extend to a Monday and they want to come to my coffee shop and they say, "Where's a good place to go when I leave here?" And I have to look at them and say, "Well, I'm sorry, but there really is nothing open."
Yeah.
So, it's discouraging to me that we don't have a flagship store in our main street. We have a small committee that's trying. They've been trying for several years. I'd say three since I've been here, three and a half years, almost four now. It's called Charlestown Now. They've been trying to do some things to help our main street, but it's not working.
Not working.
It's not working. I don't embrace their principles anymore. The city itself is not supportive of our downtown Main Street. We don't get together and have meetings as business owners. They don't care about that, and I feel like we still have a lot of work to do. So I am scrambling now to try to always be thinking of what's the next big thing. What are we going to do to bring customers in? What are we going to do to keep customers? We close at 5.
Hmm.
I would stay open later if there were other businesses open. If we had a good flagship store that made downtown bustling and safe. But when everything's closed, who wants to go have coffee at a coffee shop and there's all the lights are off downtown?
Right.
It's just not attractive.
Right.
So that's the business model. We're always sitting here scratching our heads, looking at each other as employee and employer. I look at them and say, what can we do to get people down here? Do you guys want to have a special event? We change our drink menus all the time. I change my decorations inside of here. We put games on our tables, Uno cards, chess, checkers. We try to have puzzles. We have a puzzle library that's free so that people will come in and bring their puzzles when they're done with them and take hours and just do a trade-off just to get people through the door. So
That's pretty
that's,
creative. I like that.
yeah, and it's a great thing to have on your main street. But if there's anybody listening to this podcast that is familiar with our area, with Charlestown, if you've been thinking of starting a small business, if you've got this entrepreneurial tickle or spirit, come talk to me. Come and talk to me and sit down with me, and we would love to have you here on our main street. We have so many people moving into Charlestown. The amount of new houses going up, they're in the hundreds to almost 1,000.
Wow.
The people moving from California, New York, Baltimore, Florida, Texas. I had people from Hawaii that just moved here. It's just been crazy, and we have got to catch up. We have got to make Main Street great again. You got to care about where you live before you can make the country better. You got to care
Yeah,
about your here and your now.
that is true. Yeah, that is
So
true.
anyway,
Very
little
well
plug for
said.
Charlestown. Come talk to me. Let's
Yeah,
get you in
great.
business here.
Yeah, and I think this starts, what I'm doing here helps because small business helping small business, and
Yes.
that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast was I want to hear people's story. So I post them and share them, and somebody else will post them and share them. And before you know it,
Yes.
we become this huge community of just helping each other grow.
Yes.
And that
Well, and
is what I want.
that's the other thing, Charles, is people need to, if you're listening to this podcast, shame on you if you don't hit the like and the share. Please, please realize how important that is, not just to me, but to Charles, to both of us. We have to have those shares. Nobody's going to hear this podcast in Charlestown, West Virginia, if you don't tag people, share things. And social media is hard enough for some of us, especially myself in my late 40s. I am learning how to do social media, and you have to hit those share buttons and those like buttons, and it's a chore. But if you can do it on something funny, then you can do it on something serious. So take the time right now, if you're listening to us, and hit like, hit share. Tag us, tag some other person that you think might enjoy this podcast, because you're going to do us a huge service, but you're also going to do all the communities that are listening to this a huge service, because it'll motivate them to do the same thing.
Absolutely. And I want to add to that. It is hard now because Google and Facebook and Instagram, because they're all kind of tied together.
Oh,
All
yeah.
three of those giants have changed the way social media is. And it's hard for us to post a link or to post
Mhm.
something and it be seen by millions of people now because that's what they want. And
Yes.
as a small business, you might pay $25, $50 to boost a post, but it doesn't really work.
No.
And
Ripoff.
people need to understand that this has to be organically grown because they're not helping us as small business, and we have to be the ones to make that happen.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
appreciate
You
you
can't
saying
have your
that.
hand out. Yeah, you can't wait for somebody to do something for you. And I do stress that to other people that come to me and say, I'm so sad. The city's not helping me. And I don't want that to come off as me complaining when I said they're not doing things for us. It's not their job.
Right.
It would be great and it would be helpful, but we have got to promote ourselves. It's our job as business owners to ask for what we need. So, it is something. If we're not happy with what's happening in our business, ultimately we're the ones that need to take the bull by the reins and say, I'm going to make this change.
Mm-hmm.
So, I will give my customers that promise. I will always be engaged and I will always be transparent, but I have no shame saying I need your help. And, but I will ultimately be the one that's responsible to make sure that what happens with my business is what happens with my business.
Right. And, I started this program with the podcast, and it's on my website there's two parts to it. One is, come on and be interviewed and also sponsor a podcast. So, we're looking to let's help each other. Let's sponsor a podcast. So my next podcast could have an article, for Siblings Coffee. Say, hey, this podcast is brought to you by, Libby of Siblings Coffee, and that's helping get the word out for all of us,
Yes.
And that is,
yes.
that
And
is
make sure
where
you
we're
send
at.
me that information, Charles.
Oh, I would love to. I really appreciate
Okay.
it. And, last but not least, how do we
Yeah.
contact you? How do we find you? I know you're on
Yes.
Instagram,
Yeah.
Facebook. You're
Yes,
give us all
we're
the
on
give us all the
Instagram.
data.
Yeah, so if you just look up Sibling Coffee Roasters, all one word, we're going to be on Facebook. We're going to be on Instagram, siblingcoffeeroasters.com. We ship coffee all over the entire United States, even to Hawaii. So you place an order for any of our coffee, and we're going to roast it fresh, and we're going to get it in the mail to you. So that's siblingcoffeeroasters.com. If you want to send me an email, you can reach out to me at siblingcoffeeroasters@yahoo.com. And it's roasters with an S. A lot of people are like Sibling Coffee Roaster. And I'm like, no, it's Roasters. So Sibling Coffee Roasters at yahoo.com. You can reach out to me. I'm the one that reads the email. Nobody else does. So I will answer you personally. You want to host something here at Sibling Coffee? We would love to do that with you, have a special event, corporate event. So reach out to me. We're out there and we want to hear what you have to say. We love our customers.
And that I'm glad you mentioned that because I will reach out to you. We are holding mystery shopper training events. So we're doing our own training program, and we want to come out and talk to people about, customer service, the customer experience and mystery shopping, and just give people the feel of like what we do and how we can help each other by just being nice. Like you said, be nice.
Yeah. Come on out.
Yeah.
Every morning before I leave, every day I get off my live, the one thing that I like to leave people with, if there's anything you ever remember me saying to you, it's to do good, be kind, and for the love of God, drink better coffee.
Drink local coffee.
Yes,
come on.
local coffee.
Exactly. Yes. Libby, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and tell your story. It's been wonderful talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I love this. It's been great. I will reach back out to you after the podcast and keep in touch and and see what we can do, and have a great day. And
you too.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. It's been a pleasure meeting you. Can't wait to meet you in person.
Absolutely. Well, listen, you have a wonderful mundane Monday.
Yes, because Monday is really challenging today, but we're going to make it. We're getting through it.
We're going to make it. Yes.
Take care, Libby.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Q.A.C. Team podcast with your host, Charles Luttrell. Today, we took you beyond the restaurant table and into the kitchen with leaders and business owners in your community. For more information, visit us at QACteam.com or Facebook and Instagram at QAC.team. Thanks for listening.